Ladies and gentlemen, picture this: a man stands alone in a crowded room. Around him, conversations flow, laughter rings out, and lives intertwined like threads in a grand tapestry. But not his. He's there, but he's not part of it. He's a stranger in a world that thrives on connection. Friendship is a bond that transcends the boundaries of time, place, and circumstance. It's an essence that seeps into the soul, shaping our identity and influencing the very core of our emotional well-being. At its heart, friendship is about connection, human connection. It's a bridge that spans the vast and often turbulent ocean of life, allowing us to share our joys, fears, and vulnerabilities with another soul who understands. When we speak of friendship, we are not talking about mere acquaintanceship or passing pleasantries. True friendship is about depth. It's not about the quantity of people you know or the number of social events you attend. It's about the quality of the relationships that truly matter. A friend is someone who sees you for who you are, beyond the mask we wear for the world. They accept your flaws, celebrate your victories, and offer solace in your failures. This is the essence of friendship, an unwavering acceptance that allows each person to exist as they truly are, without fear of judgment or rejection. There's a rawness in friendship that cannot be replicated in any other relationship. In the presence of a true friend, you can let down your guard, not worrying about your reputation or image. The walls we so carefully construct around ourselves are dissolved in the safety of this bond. A friend is a mirror, not just reflecting who we are, but helping us see the person we may not yet know we can be. Friendship isn't just about the good times, it's about the hard times too. The real test of a relationship comes not in moments of happiness, but in moments of difficulty and adversity. When life hits hard, when the storms rage, a true friend stands by your side. They don't just offer sympathy, they offer support, even when they don't have the answers. In these moments, friendship becomes more than just a bond, it becomes a lifeline. The comfort of knowing that you are not alone, that someone sees you through your struggles and still believes in you, is a gift that cannot be measured. But friendship also teaches us the value of giving. It's not just about what you receive from a friend, but what you are willing to give in return. True friendship requires effort, commitment, and understanding. It's about listening, showing up when it matters, and giving your time, energy, and heart to another. It's not always easy, and sometimes it requires sacrifices, but the return is worth every ounce of effort. The essence of friendship also lies in its transformative power. It's one of the few human experiences capable of changing us, shaping us into better versions of ourselves. A true friend encourages growth, challenges us to think differently, and motivates us to pursue our dreams. They provide a perspective we might not have considered, pushing us towards self-discovery and self-improvement. Through the lens of friendship, we see the world differently, more empathetically, more authentically. So, at its core, friendship is a celebration of humanity. It reminds us that despite the chaos, the pain, and the suffering that may surround us, we are never truly alone. It's a testament to the strength of human connection and our intrinsic need to share our lives with others. In a world that often feels fragmented and disconnected, the essence of friendship remains a reminder of the beauty of togetherness. The isolated man lives in a world that seems vast and empty, even as it teems with life. He is surrounded by people, perhaps even surrounded by love, but still feels like an outsider, a spectator rather than a participant. To the world, he may appear to be self-sufficient, strong in his solitude, but beneath the surface lies a depth of loneliness that few can comprehend. His isolation is not merely physical, it is emotional, spiritual, and often by choice. Yet even in that choice, there is a paradox, because the desire to be left alone often stems from the fear of rejection, the fear of not being understood, or the belief that no one could truly be trusted. In his isolation, the man becomes his own company. His mind races with thoughts that only he can hear. His heart beats for moments that never seem to arrive. And although the world around him spins, he remains anchored in his solitude. It is a place where he can reflect, perhaps too much on everything and nothing. He knows his own mind better than anyone, yet the longer he remains isolated, the harder it becomes to see the world clearly. The lines between his own self-doubt and reality blur, and the more he isolates, the more he questions his worth. He convinces himself that his aloneness is a reflection of his inadequacy, that he is too much for others to handle, too flawed to be accepted. At times, the isolated man will reach out, even if just in the smallest way. A casual word, a smile offered to a stranger, an attempt to connect, but it is always fleeting. His attempts are met with a cold distance, a lack of response that deepens the wound. His vulnerability is fragile, and each rejection, whether real or perceived, reinforces his belief that he is unworthy of friendship, unworthy of love. He grows accustomed to the silence, to the feeling of being invisible. In this silence, he learns to live without. He fills his days with distractions, work, hobbies, or perhaps even routines that keep him occupied enough to forget his loneliness for a while. Yet, no matter how busy he keeps himself, the ache of isolation always lingers in the background, a constant hum in the noise of life. The isolated man often convinces himself that he prefers his solitude, that he is better off alone, that he can handle life without the need for others. There's a certain pride in this belief, an illusion of strength that keeps him from acknowledging the aching void that stretches within him. He tells himself that the world doesn't understand him, that people are too shallow, too superficial to offer anything of true value. But deep down, there is always a hunger and need for connection, for someone to understand, to see him for who he truly is. This hunger grows as time passes, feeding on itself, becoming more insistent and more painful. And yet, for all his pride in being alone, there is a part of him that craves the comfort of a companion. The isolated man may not always know how to reach out or how to bridge the gap between himself and others, but he feels it deep in his bones, the pull to connect, the longing to be part of something greater than himself. The struggle within him is one of vulnerability and strength, of fear and desire. In his isolation, he may feel both liberated and trapped, freed from the judgment of others, but bound by his own inability to break the walls he has built around himself. It is a constant battle between wanting to be seen and hiding in the shadows, between hoping for a lifeline and convincing himself that he doesn't need one. Self-reliance is often celebrated as a virtue, a strength that allows an individual to stand on their own, unshaken by the world around them. It speaks to independence, resilience, and the ability to handle life's challenges without relying on others. In a society that values individual success, self-reliance is seen as the ultimate expression of personal power. But there is a fine line between self-reliance and isolation, a line that can be easily crossed without even realizing it. While self-reliance gives a person the ability to stand firm, isolation often creeps in, transforming what was once a sign of strength into a quiet, painful solitude. A self-reliant person takes pride in their ability to manage on their own. They do not lean on others for validation or assistance because they believe in their own capabilities. They solve problems independently, navigate challenges with little to no external support, and find satisfaction in their autonomy. This can be empowering, a sense of control over one's life that makes them feel invincible. Yet, in the pursuit of autonomy, there is a risk, one that's often overlooked. The longer a person walks the path of self-reliance, the more they can distance themselves from the people around them. They begin to view their reliance on others as a weakness, a crutch that will only slow them down. And with that, the walls around them begin to rise. At first, these walls seem harmless. They are built out of necessity, a desire to protect one's space, one's privacy, and one's sense of identity. But over time, those walls become higher and thicker, creating a barrier between the individual and the outside world. What was once a strong sense of self becomes an armor, shielding the person not only from harm, but from connection. And this is where self-reliance can slip into isolation. Isolation doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual shift, often unnoticed by the person who experiences it. As they continue to rely on themselves, they start to feel more comfortable in their solitude. They begin to believe that they can do everything alone, that they don't need anyone. The idea of asking for help starts to feel like a failure, a sign of weakness. It's easier to retreat into oneself than to risk vulnerability with others. After all, people can disappoint. Relationships can complicate things. So the isolated person remains in their bubble, cocooned in self-reliance, but at the cost of the richness that human connection brings. The danger of isolation is that it convinces the individual that they don't need anyone else. While self-reliance can be empowering, when taken to extremes, it becomes a prison. It creates an illusion of strength. But underneath it all, there's a gnawing emptiness that cannot be filled by self-sufficiency alone. The more one isolates, the more disconnected they feel from the world. They begin to forget the value of sharing, of asking for help, of being vulnerable in front of others. And with that, the soul grows heavy, weighed down by the belief that one can face the world without the comfort of companionship. Self-reliance, when balanced with connection, can be a beautiful thing, but when it tips into isolation, it transforms from a symbol of personal strength into a quiet, unspoken cry for help. The isolated person may not even realize it, but in their quest to handle everything on their own, they have lost something far more important than the ability to solve problems. They have lost the ability to be seen, to be understood, to share their burden with others. And in that loss, they unknowingly sacrifice the very thing that makes life truly worth living: connection. The struggle for connection is one of the most profound human experiences. It lies at the very heart of our existence, a deep yearning to be seen, understood, and valued by others. It is the desire to bridge the gap between isolation and intimacy, to find those who will accept us as we are, flaws and all. Yet this struggle is not always easy, and it is not always straightforward. For many, the desire for connection is met with silence, distance, or even rejection. The more they reach out, the more it feels like they are falling into an abyss. They want to connect, but the world around them seems to make it harder to do so, as if the very essence of what they seek is just out of reach. At the core of this struggle is vulnerability. Connection requires a willingness to be open, to expose the parts of ourselves that we keep hidden from the world. To connect with others, we must be willing to share our true selves, not just the polished versions we present in public. This vulnerability is terrifying for many. It means risking judgment, misunderstanding, or even being hurt. So some guard themselves, building walls that protect them from the possibility of rejection. But these walls also keep connection at bay. They convince themselves that it's safer to remain distant, that it's easier to live without the complexities of relationships. But deep inside, they know that something is missing, that they are not truly living. The struggle becomes even more complex in a world that is increasingly connected yet feels more disconnected than ever. Social media, texting, and instant communication have created a facade of connection, but it often leaves people feeling more alone than they were before. The interactions are superficial, the conversations shallow, and the moments of true connection are few and far between. The more we communicate through screens, the more we distance ourselves from the raw, authentic experiences that make relationships meaningful. We substitute likes, comments, and emojis for the warmth of a shared smile or the comfort of a conversation in person. We forget that connection isn't just about exchanging words, it's about sharing moments, energy, and emotion. For many, the struggle for connection is compounded by fear. The fear of being vulnerable, the fear of rejection, the fear of not measuring up. These fears can be paralyzing, keeping people locked in cycles of self-doubt and loneliness. The more they long for connection, the more they fear it will never come. This fear becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy as they avoid opportunities to connect out of a belief that they will never truly belong. In these moments, the struggle becomes internal, a battle between the desire to reach out and the fear of being disappointed. Yet the need for connection remains. It gnaws at the soul, a constant reminder that we are social creatures, built to bond, to share, to love. Even in the midst of fear, there is always a glimmer of hope. The smallest gesture, the briefest moment of understanding, can reignite the spark of connection. We begin to realize that the struggle is not in the connection itself, but in our ability to let go of our fears and open ourselves to the possibility of being truly seen. The struggle for connection is not a fight against the world. It is a fight against the walls we have built around ourselves, the barriers that prevent us from embracing the very thing we need the most. Society plays a pivotal role in shaping how we connect with one another. It provides a framework within which relationships are formed, influences the standards by which we measure our interactions, and establishes the values that guide our understanding of connection. However, society's influence is a double-edged sword. While it offers a sense of belonging and shared identity, it can also foster division, isolation, and disconnection. The expectations and pressures of the social world can often make us feel as though we must fit a certain mold to be accepted, which can undermine the very essence of authentic human connection. From the moment we are born, society begins to shape the way we interact with others. We are taught to follow social norms, to adhere to unwritten rules of behavior, and to conform to expectations about how we should think, look, and act. These norms create a sense of order and predictability, providing a foundation for social interactions. But they also carry the weight of judgment. There are standards for what is considered acceptable, and deviations from those standards are often met with criticism or exclusion. This pressure to conform can create barriers to genuine connection, especially for those who feel they do not fit into the prescribed molds. People may feel the need to mask their true selves, hiding aspects of their identity to avoid rejection or judgment. In this way, society's role in shaping connection can lead to an environment where people are more concerned with how they are perceived than with truly engaging with others. Furthermore, society often places a high value on individual achievement and success. In cultures that prioritize personal accomplishment, competition, and self-sufficiency, the importance of collaboration and emotional vulnerability can be overshadowed. People may be encouraged to focus on their own goals and desires, leaving little room for the time and energy required to build meaningful, reciprocal relationships. The focus on individual success can make it difficult for people to recognize the value of connection, and many find themselves isolated in a world that seems to reward those who can stand alone. This can create a cycle where the pressure to succeed and the desire for connection are at odds, leading to feelings of frustration, loneliness, and alienation. In the modern age, technology has amplified society's role in both facilitating and hindering connection. On the one hand, social media and online communication platforms provide a space for individuals to reach out and connect with others from around the globe. These digital spaces can foster a sense of community, providing support and camaraderie for people who might otherwise feel alone. Yet, these platforms also tend to promote surface-level interactions that are often disconnected from the emotional depth and richness of face-to-face communication. The constant bombardment of curated, idealized images of others can foster feelings of inadequacy, leading individuals to question their worth and their ability to connect authentically. Social media can give the illusion of connection, but it often leaves people feeling more isolated as they compare their real lives to the highlight reels of others. Society also influences connection through its cultural narratives. Stories, traditions, and media portrayals shape our understanding of what it means to be connected to others. We are often fed the idea that relationships are easy, that love and friendship come naturally and without effort. These idealized portrayals can lead to disappointment and disillusionment when real-life relationships fail to meet these expectations. Additionally, societal narratives about success, happiness, and fulfillment can make people feel as though they must achieve certain milestones, marriage, children, career success before they can truly experience connection. This leaves many feeling inadequate or disconnected when their experiences do not align with the societal script. The role of society, then, is both enabling and restrictive. It provides a structure that allows relationships to form, but it also sets the stage for misunderstandings, disconnection, and isolation. It is through society's norms, expectations, and pressures that people learn to navigate the complex landscape of human relationships. However, in doing so, society also creates barriers that prevent true connection from flourishing, forcing individuals to confront not only the external expectations placed on them, but also their own internal struggles with fitting in. In the midst of darkness, when it feels as though the weight of isolation and loneliness is too much to bear, there is always a glimmer of hope. This hope, though faint at times, is the quiet yet persistent reminder that connection is possible, that change is within reach, and that even in our most desolate moments, the possibility of something better remains. It is the spark that drives us forward when we feel like giving up. The flicker that tells us that we are not truly alone, even when it seems like no one else can see us. The glimmer of hope often arrives when we least expect it, breaking through the fog of despair like a crack of light cutting through a stormy sky. It might come in the form of a small, seemingly insignificant gesture, a kind word from a stranger, a smile from someone who truly sees us, or an unexpected message from an old friend. These moments, though fleeting, remind us that human connection is never fully extinguished. They remind us that there are still people who care, still moments of kindness and understanding, still paths that can lead us out of the darkness. This hope is not about grand gestures or sweeping changes, but rather about the small, everyday acts of humanity that serve as reminders of the possibility for something better. Even when we feel trapped in our isolation, the glimmer of hope lies in the knowledge that things can change. It's easy to get caught up in the belief that our current state is permanent, that the walls we built around ourselves cannot be torn down. But hope exists in the simple truth that nothing in life is static. Emotions, circumstances, and relationships evolve over time, and what feels unchangeable today might be different tomorrow. This realization allows us to keep moving forward, to hold on to the belief that no matter how entrenched we feel in our solitude, there is always a path forward, a path to healing, to growth, and to reconnection. Hope is also found in the act of reaching out, even when it feels terrifying. The glimmer of hope is not just a passive feeling, it is an active choice. It's a decision to open ourselves up to others, to take the risk of vulnerability, even in the face of possible rejection. Each time we allow ourselves to connect, we increase our chances of finding the understanding and support that we crave. While it might not always lead to immediate results, the act of reaching out, even in small ways, reinforces the idea that we are not doomed to be forever disconnected. It is in these moments of courage that we begin to chip away at the walls of isolation that we have built, one step at a time. The hope that exists in human connection is not just about the comfort of being understood, it is about the possibility of transformation. Each time we connect with another person, we create the potential for growth, learning, and mutual support. The glimmer of hope tells us that through our relationships, we can change not only ourselves, but also the world around us. Even the smallest act of kindness, the briefest moment of shared understanding, can ripple out and have far-reaching effects, helping to heal not just the individual, but the collective. We are reminded that we are part of a larger human tapestry, each of us intertwined with the others, contributing to the whole. In the end, the glimmer of hope is a reminder that no matter how dark it seems, no matter how isolated or disconnected we may feel, there is always a way forward. There is always a path back to connection, to understanding, and to belonging. It may not always be easy to find, and it may require us to face our fears, our vulnerabilities, and our doubts, but it is always there waiting, patiently, for us to reach out and embrace it. In the end, the struggle for connection is a fundamental aspect of the human experience, one that transcends all barriers of age, background, and circumstance. While society shapes our ability to form relationships, and the desire for self-reliance can often lead to isolation, the glimmer of hope is the thread that keeps us moving forward. Even when we feel alone, disconnected, or trapped in our own emotional solitude, the possibility of connection remains waiting for us to embrace it. It is through vulnerability, courage, and the willingness to reach out that we can break free from isolation and discover the power of authentic human bonds. As we continue to navigate the complexities of our relationships, we must remember that hope is never truly lost, for the potential for genuine connection is always just within our reach.